Good morning on this Tuesday, 8th of February. How are you all doing? I've sort of been sitting quietly for a while with regard to predictions or seeing things coming up. I don't tend to push my guides and ask them questions. I tend to just sit and wait until they want to give me something. A lot of the time it just feels like we've had to sit and wait and go through things. There's some things we can control and there's some things we can't control. So I thought I would sit this morning and write down if they would give me, some updates or, some things that I could see that were unfolding. So I've written down some things that I was given this morning. The first thing, they always give me a vision, like a story unfolds in my head, and then I try to put it to whatever's happening around us. So it's like they give me clues. So the first thing I had was the word was power and people and people holding on to their power. And I was actually given a vision of, like, in nature when you get like a buffalo who wants to fight another male buffalo so that they can control the tribe. It kind of felt like that masculine beast type energy of certain males that are wanting, especially males, because this was like a male buffalo, wanting to like buff themselves up and look more powerful than others. So, and then I kind of thought maybe this was referring to there's a worry of a war between Russia and Ukraine, and Putin kind of being that buffalo, like trying to push his weight to prove that he is more powerful. Yet I don't actually see a fight. Like normally when that happens, when someone starts ruffling their feathers, so to speak, and getting all masculine, they look like they're about to start a fight. But rather than one other person coming to fight him, there's like a whole tribe that sticks together, and there's a realization that he can't fight against a tribe. He could fight against one, but he can't fight against a whole tribe of buffalo. And so that kind of feels like how that's going to transpire with reality. There may be a threat of war, and there may be, I think I wrote, what did I write down? There's an edging. The word was edging. There's an edging towards war, but not an all-out war or takeover. It gets stopped before it gets messy. So if anyone's sort of been following that, the energy around those countries and feeling like it is going to go to war, I kind of feel like it's not going to be an all-out war. I've sat with that question a few times with the guys saying, is there another war coming? And I get a no, but there is this edging towards that way, but it's not a finalization of it. So that was coming through. What else did I get asked a lot about when will COVID end? And I've said before, COVID won't end because that virus it'll always be like a flu virus. It'll always be here. But what I was shown was the variants that are coming are weak. They're weak. So it was either a case of the immune systems as a collective are able to fight it off so it doesn't have as much impact on the body, or the actual strains that are coming are of a weak variety that don't have as much impact on the body. So rather than COVID actually ending, it feels more like the strains that are coming are a lot weaker and have less impact on the human body. So that would be less deaths from the variants that are coming. So to me, that it's not an ending of COVID, but it's sort of like it's a better outcome than what we've had. So what did I write here? Oh, I wrote this down twice because it's like it's still that divinity between people with their programmed beliefs and people that have awakened to a broader aspect. And when you've awakened to that broader aspect, you can't get through to someone who's stuck in their programmed beliefs. It's like banging your head against a brick wall. There's just no point even trying. I see this. I've had people in my life for so many years that have never understood what I do. They kind of respect what I do, but they just don't understand it. They're like, how can you see your energy? How can you see spirit? How can you converse with them? They're fascinated to know how it works because they can't do it. And like they don't want to know. Like they don't really want to know how it's done. They're just like, well, you do your thing and I'll do my thing. They are open to it, but then there's other people that are just totally, and they will just say it's a load of crap. Like psychics are a load of crap. That they are so switched off from anything. And I kind of equate it to, if you've ever given up a habit, if you were a smoker for years and years and years and you gave up smoking, or you were a drinker and you gave up drinking, or you took drugs, or there's any kind of toxic substance or anything you were doing to your body, and then you made a change. You thought, I'm going to be healthier and I'm going to look after myself more, and you gave up that habit and you changed your life and you feel so good. When you feel so good, the first thing you want to do is help everybody else to feel good like you feel good. So you want to convince other people to give up their habits, because it's just what we do. When we feel good about ourselves, we want others to feel good as well. And that same thing happens when you're having a spiritual awakening. It is so good and you feel so good that you want everyone else to feel that goodness with you. But you can't. They can only go through something at their pace when they are ready. And I've seen it for years when I've had people in my life that I've tried to help them see something on a spiritual level. They didn't get it. They kept repeating the same things over and over, and then they get it. And that's like, and when they get it, they're like, I now know what you were talking about. And everybody that's in this world, no matter what job, position, wherever they are going through their own level of understanding. So whether it's a politician, someone in the royal family, someone in the media, because you'll see some people in media, they'll tell a certain story and then they start realizing themselves that they don't believe that themselves. And they change, they'll go and start telling a different story. So I did get a vision of this 180 change of heart with a lot of people that have been telling a certain story for a very long time. And these will be people that are known in the public eye, and these will also be people that are just in your family or in your close circle, where you're going to start seeing them change everything about the way that they were thinking. But they have to do it in their own space. We should never say, I told you so to anybody. We should just welcome them and say, well, that's great that you're seeing it this way now, and support people. But I definitely see a lot more people that are sort of in the public eye. I just got that they're going to change. What did I wrote the word? I wrote down, let me see, I can't see it. Change in tactics, that's what it was. It was like a change in tactics, so that's definitely coming very, very soon. That felt like within 3 months. What else have I written here? I have seen for quite a while a lot of class action court cases coming up. I think this is further into the future because I don't, you know me, I don't do timing very well. I see groups of people doing class action court cases or wanting some kind of compensation, and these are people that have suffered an effect from vaccinations. These are people that have felt like they were blackmailed into doing something against their will. These are people that have some form of injury. Their life changed due to the decisions of other people. And I could just see them all banding together and forming these class action court cases. Now, I don't see whether they win. I don't see whether it goes any further. I don't even actually see who would pay this compensation that they're asking for. But I do see these groups getting together to form this. So I may get some information further down the track as to the results of this. But at the moment, it just feels like people coming together to form these class actions to go through court to get compensation. It's all to get compensation for feeling that they were wronged with situations that they were put in. There's still a lot of past emotions coming up with people through dreams, through randomly coming up with a memory that you hadn't thought of for years. So when that happens, if you can kind of try to remember what was happening in your life around that time, how you were feeling. The memory comes up because of the feeling that was connected to it around that time. So all you need to do is love yourself for that time, and just, if you can just remind yourself you are only ever making decisions from how you feel at the time, and just forgiving yourself. If you're making a judgment to yourself thinking, I did that wrong, or I should have done it differently, I hurt somebody, I hurt myself, don't focus on the wrong about it. Just go into the I forgive not loving myself at that time. I forgive making a judgment about that decision when that was all I knew at the time. And just pour forgiveness. We really need to pour forgiveness into these past experiences that we've had to just clear them away. It just keeps coming up. I feel this energy with so many people where they're just trying to we can clear it so we don't have to carry it and then pass it on to future generations. Let's get rid of it now, once and for all. I also had a vision of a rocket which looked more like a missile because it didn't have people on board. It was just a missile being shot into space. It had a target. I tried to visualize further to see if the target was trying to hit a meteor or hit a space station or hit something, but it doesn't seem to be, it has a target, but it doesn't seem to hit anything. But the feeling I got when this is sent off is that there is people going to panic, that they may feel like this is the start of some kind of war, or if this is some form of attack. There is consequences. There is dire consequences to whatever sets this missile off. Whether it's someone who's built something illegally, whether it's a country that's been told not to use these kind of weapons and they do, there is some kind of dire consequences. There's only this one missile that goes off. There is consequences afterwards. So I didn't really get much more around that. There seems to be something changing in the medical industry around doctors and a clause. I kind of saw this contract and I saw this clause written into a contract, and it was only for doctors or people that are treating making decisions for other people. And it was worded in a way that I don't know how to say this. It's like keeping their personal views out of science. So I don't know when a person becomes a doctor if they have to sign something that says how they will treat people, how they will, I don't know, the morals connected to dealing with sick people. But there is some form, I just saw this clause and it was being added to contracts and it had to be signed by doctors. If they didn't agree, then maybe their license would not be renewed or something like that. So not sure of all the details, but it just seemed to be this change in something to do with doctors in the medical industry. It was like the medical board had changed a ruling or changed a clause. So weirdly, I just saw this a new breed of rose, like the flowers, a rose, and I feel like they are going to call it COVID, or I don't know, there's some kind of rose that's being bred at this time that's going to be named after whatever we've been going through in the last 2 years as a reminder of 2020 and 2021. So look at all my, this is what I was typing out. There's a little bit more. And my dog's barking because there's another dog walking past on the road and she's letting me know that there's somebody else out there. The words centralized and decentralized will be popping up a lot more in conversations. It's like there's a debate going on around these topics of centralized and decentralized. Some are cheering about this and some are living in total fear of losing control. Kind of felt like the end of this year, around September, August, September onwards, we're going to see something rise to the surface around the words centralized and decentralized, and it changing to decentralized. It's heading that way. But there's a lot of people panicking about it heading that way because they're the type of people that are still living in those programmed beliefs from before, and not wanting to lose power, like fear. The fear when people are going to lose their comfort zone, it's a real thing, and it's when people living in that much fear, they will take action out of panic and out of fear, and that action then affects other people. So that was certainly coming up. I also had this vision of the earth parting, and I didn't see civilization. It was just earth. It was just like a desert, but it split in half and left this great hole in the middle. And I was thinking, is it like the earth? Was that like a clue that they were giving me as to what I was saying before about the earth? That we're splitting into these two categories of those who are understanding, who are viewing the world through an awakened consciousness and through their soul, and those that are still stuck in the old belief ego thing. Was seeing it, that's because I've talked about that before, like we're on different levels of understanding. But then I thought maybe there is actually going to be an earthquake where the land does split. And I did get the letter A connected to that. So whether it's in a country starting with A, an area starting with A, but there was not people there. I didn't see water. All I saw was dry ground, some mountains, like hills, no water, no people, no civilization. It was just like nature. I'm not really sure what that was about. So As with everything I see, I don't know what it means at the time, and then later on, when something happens, it starts to make sense. So this this February, if you read about people that deal with the energy of February, we're still in a lot of clearing, but people are starting to, like, there is so much, we've had enough, that I've had enough, I can't do this anymore. That feeling of really wanting to give up and not seeing the light, that, you know, they say there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but when you can't see it, it's such a difficult place to be in, because you're just trying to hang on, but you don't know what you're hanging on to. And it is certainly teaching us to live in the moment, to forget about trying to plan so far ahead when all you have is this moment. As I mentioned before, it felt like we were in the eye of the cyclone, where the first 2 years, the first part of the cyclone came through and ripped everything apart. We're sitting in the middle now, waiting for the second lot to come through and rip it apart again. So I still feel like there is some difficulties coming, but they are all to lead us to that better life. I've seen it, I've mentioned it so many times, where I saw all the systems collapsing, and I saw, like, I keep having this thought in my mind lately about with political parties. I don't know if this is because there's an election coming up and things are going to change from the election, but I keep feeling like there is some form of council. So rather than having parties, individual parties that try to argue against each other and debate and say they will do the best for you, and then they never ever do it, I felt like it's heading into a place of like a council, where you've got, say, 12 individual members on a council that work for the people, and the people have more say in the way in which things are going to, it's sort of going into that community minded again, like back into communities the way it originally was. Originally it was communities that lived on the lands, and then as things got bigger and they merged, people decided to take control of all communities rather than letting the communities run themselves. And it hasn't worked out that way. It's become too greed orientated. So I do feel like we're going back to that smaller council, smaller areas controlling themselves. So I don't know the timing. I still see the money system changing. I think with that word decentralized, that's where that'll come in, because like money is just numbers. Like one of my sons, when he was only quite young, he just said money is just numbers on a computer. You just type them in. So you want to borrow money, you just type in money, and type in numbers on someone's bank account. You know, when you look at it like that, the way that they look at it, back in the olden day, you actually had physical cash in your hand, so you could see how much you had, and you would buy something and you would part with what you were holding in your hand. Now it's just numbers on a screen that you just type in and transfer numbers around, and it's lost its value. Especially for young people, that's all they've known. They've grown up in that world of cards and FPOS and not really using cash. That's all they see is just numbers, and it's lost its value. So I do feel like that is still changing. The thing is, you can't force someone else to make a decision which is going to affect you. So, like at the moment, the governments are still pushing the narrative that they've been pushing all along, if they've gone out and bought like so many vaccines and they have to use them and people are saying no to getting them and they're stuck with them, from a business sense, they're going to want to keep pushing them so that they haven't wasted their money. They don't want to just throw them in the bin and say, well, that was a waste of time. So of course they're going to want to keep pushing things because of what they started. And it's really hard to step back and say, oh well, we'll just throw all them in the bin. That's, people aren't going to comply with what we're saying. So you can't, until everybody gets pushed to that breaking point, it won't change. So how do you actually put a timeline on when something, because someone can be so persistent. I've seen people for 6 or 7 years be so pig-headed and stubborn and ram their head in a brick wall, constantly doing the wrong thing in life, upsetting everybody around them, destroying themselves, and not changing. And then all of a sudden something dramatic happens in their life and then they're like, oh, now I need to change. And everyone is going to be like that. No matter what position they hold in life, they can keep pushing and pushing and pushing and saying the same thing over and over and over, and it's not working, and they'll keep doing it. And that's where it's so hard to predict timing, because how do you know when they're going to break? Where is their breaking point? Like, where is your breaking point? I don't know. That's entirely up to you. So yeah, I just thought I would check in with you all, share a few more kind of visions, and hope that we are still on the right track. It is taking a long time. I've always said it's going to take from 2020 to 2025, so we're halfway. We're at the halfway point. It has to develop slowly. It took thousands of years to get us to where we are now. I think it's pretty good. It's only going to take 5 years to get us out of that programmed belief. It's a lot better than taking another 1,000 years to get out of it, I believe. So thank you so much for listening to me again, and I hope you are doing well. I hope you are safe and keeping healthy, and I'll talk to you soon.